Hello and welcome back to Something Z, and welcome to If Naruto Had the Four Tails Part 1. And since there's nothing to say, let's jump into the video in 3, 2, 1. Before we get this video started, I'd like to say that there are secret codes throughout the video just because it's a Halloween special because I suck at uploading on time. So anyways, that's gonna be there. Put it in the comments if you figured it out or something, I don't know. Anyways, let's get back to the video in 3, 2, 1. So we begin this what if many years before the actual start of the series, and Hashirama was currently spreading out the tailed beast in order to create peace across the great villages. But this time, instead of giving the hidden leaf the 9 tails, Hashirama gave them the 4 tails, while giving the hidden stone the 9 and the 5 tails. And because Son Goku is a prideful tailed beast, it honestly doesn't appreciate being enslaved by the hidden leaf, so he doesn't really work with the Jinchurikis, and because of that, it gets a reputation as a monster. So now we jump to Naruto's birth, and while Kushina was weak from giving birth, the 4 tails got forcibly removed from her, and the second that Son Goku was released, he was put under a genjutsu which made the 4 tails go on a rampage. So he destroyed a good portion of the village, and by the end of the night the 4 tails got suppressed into the newly born Naruto, but in exchange Minato and Kushina died. So now we skip to when Naruto was around 7 years old, and when he went to bed he found himself in a giant dungeon with cages everywhere, and wondering where he was, the young Naruto began to walk around. And after what seemed like half an hour, Naruto finally came across a cage that seemed to have something in it, and from Naruto's initial look he just saw a giant poof of red fur. And questioning what was going on, Naruto, more talking to himself, asked where was he, and hearing this the monkey turned around, and when he did he began to move closer to Naruto, and when he got close enough Naruto was able to see that inside the cage there was a giant monkey with 4 tails, and when Naruto was able to see that it was a monkey, the monkey told Naruto that he was in his own mindscape. Then hearing this, Naruto asked another question, which was what was the creature and why was it in his mind. So the creature then told him that he was the 4 tails, and he tells him about the attack that happened when he was born. And at the end of the story, the 4 tails tells him that the reason the village hates him so much is because of him residing in him. And hearing all this, Naruto got mad since he did nothing wrong, and it's just because of this that everyone hates him, something that he couldn't even control. But after a couple minutes, Naruto calms down, and he smiles at the creature and he asks it would it be his friend. And hearing this, the tailed beast was confused and stunned for a couple of seconds, because he was expecting the small kid to get angry at him and force him to help him get stronger. So the creature then asks why did the kid not hate him, and in response Naruto tells it that the village already hates him, and he says that if he were to hate the tailed beast, nothing would change, for him or the creature, so they should work together in order to get the respect they both want. And hearing this, the 4 tails began to think, and after a couple seconds the creature told Naruto that he would become his friend, and he would help him, as long as he will get treated as an equal instead of a slave. And hearing this, Naruto agrees, and this event was the start of a friendship between the two. And before the start of the series, Naruto focused on learning how to use the 4 tails' abilities to the fullest. So Naruto is skilled in Earth Release Jutsu, with Naruto being able to make earth walls, and he can use Earth Release hiding like a mole technique, which allows Naruto to swim in the ground. And he can also use Fire Release Jutsu, with his main jutsu being Fire Release Phoenix Sage Fire Technique, where he shoots out a bunch of fireballs from his mouth, which he can manipulate even after he shoots it out. And finally, Naruto can combine the 2 releases to form Lava Release, which he has one jutsu, which is Lava Release Scorching Stream Rock Technique, where Naruto shoots out pure lava balls which immediately turn into flaming boulders which fly towards Naruto's targets. So now we go to the start of the series, and because Naruto only focused on using the tailed beast's abilities, he isn't really good at anything else. So Naruto failed his graduation exams because he couldn't do the clone jutsu. And when he found out that he failed, he sat on top of a roof of the school until it was sunset. And when Mizuki noticed him, he walked over to him, and he told Naruto that there was another way for him to actually become a genin, which was if he could learn a jutsu from a forbidden scroll, then he would automatically become a genin. And hearing this, Naruto gets excited, so he decides to go through with it. And after Mizuki explained where both the scroll and his hiding place where Naruto can train are located, Naruto ran to where the scroll was located, and after around half an hour, Naruto was able to get the scroll, and he was able to get to Mizuki's place without any difficulties. And shortly after Naruto was able to steal the scroll, the Third Hokage found out, and once it was revealed that Naruto stole the scroll, the Third Hokage sent out Shinobi to find Naruto, and after an hour, Iruka found him on the ground tired and dirty, in the forest. And when Naruto saw Iruka, he quickly got back to his feet, and he told him that he did it. And confused about what Naruto was talking about, he asked why did Naruto take the scroll, and in response, Naruto tells him that Mizuki told him that if he was able to learn one scroll from the jutsu, then he would become a genin. But before Iruka could say anything, a giant shuriken came from the trees above, and it flew towards Naruto, and before it was able to hit him, Naruto shot out a flaming boulder which hit the kunai, and when it made contact, the kunai stuck into the rock, and almost immediately began to glow a bright red. And when the rock and kunai hit the ground, the surrounding grass caught fire, but luckily the hole that the boulder made was big enough that the grass couldn't start a forest fire. And when the boulder was on the ground, the two turned their attention to where the kunai came from, and when they did, they saw Mizuki in a tree, who then tells Naruto to give up the scroll. And hearing this, Iruka shouts at Naruto to not listen to him, and he tells him that Mizuki's lying to him. But hearing this, Mizuki shouts that he isn't the only one in Naruto's life keeping a secret from him. Then he shouts that the four-tailed monster that destroyed the village years ago was sealed within him. And hearing this, Naruto just nods his head and he tells him that he already knows. And he tells him that Goku isn't really that bad once you get to know him. But right after he said that, Mizuki began to freak out, and he said that was even more of a reason to kill him if he's talking to the creature. Then Mizuki lunged at Naruto, and saying this, Naruto tells Iruka to stand back. Then Naruto used the new jutsu that he just learned, which was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. So Naruto then created 40 Shadow Clones, and when they were fully formed, the Narutos ran at Mizuki, and while they were running, they were all shooting out multiple small fireballs, which Mizuki was able to dodge for a short time. But after a couple minutes, Mizuki finally got hit in the leg, and once he got hit once, Mizuki got slowed down just enough so he could no longer avoid the fireballs. So he then began to get hit with a volley of fireballs, making him get first and second degree burns all over his body. And once Mizuki was on the ground unable to move, multiple Naruto surrounded him, and they made thick earth walls that were around 10 feet tall. And once the ground was raised, Naruto went on the top of the prison, and he made a roof, making it impossible for the beaten up Mizuki to escape. And once Naruto made the prison, Naruto undid the jutsu, so now only the original Naruto was left. And after that, Iruka gave Naruto his headband, and he told him that he was now officially a Genin. Then after some time, Shinobi appeared and they took Mizuki to jail. So now we skip a couple of days, and it's now time for the gang to be put into teams. And all the teams will be the exact same as in the canon. And all the same things will happen between the three members of Team 7. So now we skip to when Kakashi asked the three what their goals were. And Sasuke and Sakura's ones will be the exact same as in the canon. But Naruto's goal is a bit different, because not only does he say he wants to be the Hokage, he also says that he wants to get respect from everyone for both him and Son Goku. And because Sasuke and Sakura don't know the Four Tails' name, they don't actually know what Naruto is talking about. But Kakashi, on the other hand, did know who he was talking about, so he knew that it would be a good idea to keep an eye on Naruto, since if he goes out of control, he could destroy the whole village. And shortly after they were done with the introductions, Kakashi tells them that the meeting is over, and that the next one will be the next morning. So now we skip to the next morning, and by the time Kakashi gets to the meeting area, it's the early afternoon. And he tells the Genin that they will be doing a test to see how strong they were, and he tells them that if they fail, they will be sent back to the academy. And once he said that, he began to explain the bell test to the Genin. And once he tells them about how the bells decide who gets sent back, Sakura pointed out that there were only 2 bells, and Kakashi in response tells them that at least one person will be sent back. And when he was done explaining, Kakashi began to count down. And when he began, Sasuke and Sakura jumped away to find a place to hide, while Naruto stayed where he was. And when Kakashi got to 0, Naruto began to run at Kakashi, and while he was running, Naruto began to shoot out volleys of fireballs. And when they got somewhat close to Kakashi, Naruto manipulated them so they would fly directly at Kakashi. But right before they hit Kakashi, Kakashi was able to move out of the way. And Naruto kept doing this until Kakashi eventually was able to get to him. And when Kakashi was able to get to him, Kakashi kneed Naruto in the gut, which made him stop making fireballs, and he got flung a couple of feet. And when Naruto landed, Naruto made around 30 Shadow Clones. And when they were fully formed, Naruto began to shoot out flaming boulders at Kakashi. And seeing this, Kakashi began to run around the field, and he was able to avoid all the boulders just in time. And while he was running around, Kakashi took out Shadow Clones one after the other. And after around a minute, only the original Naruto was left. And before Naruto was able to react, Kakashi was able to get behind him. And before he was able to get out of the way of the attack, Kakashi was able to land the 1000 years of death on him, launching him to a nearby lake. But after a couple seconds of Naruto being under the water, Naruto swims back up. And when he comes back up, he wasn't alone, because when he was under the water, Naruto made around 19 Shadow Clones. And when they were out of the water, the Naruto clones ran at Kakashi all at once. And seeing them, Kakashi prepared himself. But before he was able to react, Naruto came out of the ground and he jumped on Kakashi's back, making him unable to move. Because when Naruto was under the water, one of the Narutos used hiding like a mole technique, which allowed him to swim under the ground until he eventually got behind Kakashi. And when the Narutos made it to Kakashi, one of them punched him in the face. But before the attack hit, Kakashi substituted himself for a Naruto, making Naruto hit Naruto. And thinking that it was a transformation, all the Naruto started to attack each other, until eventually Naruto undid the jutsu, making the original take all the damage. And after he did this, Naruto began to look around to see where Kakashi went. But while he was searching, he noticed one of the silver bells on the ground under a tree, so he ran to it and he went to pick it up. But when he squatted down to get the bell, one of his feet landed in between the middle of a rope trap. And before Naruto was able to react, the rope wrapped around his ankle and it picked him up, flipping him upside down while still holding him by his leg. Then Kakashi walked up to him and he took the bell. And he then tells Naruto not to fall for such obvious traps. And seeing this as a good opportunity, Sasuke threw multiple kunai and shurikens at Kakashi, which all land. But instead of hitting Kakashi, they all hit a log, which he was able to substitute himself with. And knowing that Kakashi now knows his location, Sasuke began to run out of his current hiding spot to try to find a new one. But after a bit of running, Kakashi was able to catch up. And after some fighting, Kakashi was able to pull Sasuke into the ground up to his neck. So now we jump a couple minutes to when Sasuke threw his weapons. And seeing the attack fail, Sakura knew that he would have to go to a different spot, and that Kakashi would hunt him down. So she began to run around looking for Sasuke. But Kakashi found her first, and he put her under a genjutsu, which instantly knocked her out. So now it's the present, and when Sakura woke up, she began to look for Sasuke again. And after a couple minutes, she finds him, but what she sees is Sasuke's decapitated head. And from fear, she passes out again. And shortly after that, the test was over, because time was up. So everyone went back to where the test began, and Naruto was tied to a stump, because after he got down from the tree, he went to go eat his lunch. But while he was eating, he got caught. And he stayed in the rope because he didn't want to get into any more trouble. And when Kakashi eventually got to where the test began, he told them that they won't be going back to the academy, and instead, they will get dropped from the program entirely, since they've missed the most important things about being a shinobi, which is teamwork. Because during the test, no one thought of helping anyone but themselves, and when they did think about someone else, they didn't think of the entire team. But right after he said that, Kakashi told them that he will give them one more shot to get the bells. But first, they were going to eat lunch, and once Kakashi told them this, he began to walk away. But before he was out of earshot, he told them that they were banned from feeding Naruto, or there would be consequences. But the second that Kakashi was out of view, Sakura and Sasuke decided to feed Naruto. But the second that Naruto swapped the food, gray smoke filled the area around them. And in that smoke was Kakashi, who told them that they passed, because they cared more about their teammate than the actual rules. And now they were officially Team 7. So now we skip about a week, and by this point, Team 7 has gone on several D-rank missions. And Team 7 has just completed a catfighting mission, and they were currently getting a new mission from Iruka and the Third Hokage. But while they were getting the mission, Naruto kept saying that they should do more than D-ranked missions, and that they were wasting their talents. And this kept going on until the Third Hokage caved in, and he decided to give Team 7 a C-ranked mission, which was to escort a bridge builder by the name of Tazuna back to his home in the Land of Waves. And after the Third Hokage told them the mission, Tazuna walked into the room, and after some talking, Kakashi told everyone that they will be going on the mission tomorrow morning, which everyone agreed to. So now we skip to the next day, and it's been hours since the start of the trip, and Team 7 and Tazuna are currently walking down a path. And while they were walking, Kakashi knows that there were puddles further down the path, and it seemed weird to him since everything else in the area seemed to be completely dry, and it was a clear day without any clouds, so he put his guard up ready for a sneak attack. And right before the group was able to walk past the puddles, two shinobi jump out of the puddles, and they instantly attack Kakashi by throwing kunais with chains attached to them, which wrapped around Kakashi, forcing him out of the fight. Then right after that, the two shinobis ran to the closest person, which was Naruto, and they go to attack. But not prepared for this, Naruto freezes up. But right before the two make contact with Naruto, Sasuke stops their attack, and he began to fight them while Sakura went over to Tazuna to protect him. And after a couple minutes, Sasuke was still fighting the two, and before the fight could end, Kakashi appeared behind the two, and he knocked them out. And shortly afterward, they tied them up. And right after that, Kakashi and Tazuna began to talk about how the mission was mislabeled, and how if Tazuna lied to them one more time, they will stop the mission and leave. But while this was going on, Naruto wasn't paying attention. He was too busy thinking about what happened during the confrontation. And after some time, he grabbed a kunai from his bag and he stabbed himself in the hand, and he made a promise to himself to never back down again. And after they were done patching up the wound Naruto made to himself, the group continued down the path. And after a couple hours of walking down the path, the group makes it to a dock that had a boat waiting for them. And after a couple minutes, they began to sail. And while they were on the boat, Tazuna explained more about what was happening to his village. It was him explaining that a businessman named Gato began taking it over, making it so everyone was poor. Then he told them he was building a bridge that would allow for easier trade, which Gato hated. So that's why Gato's after him. And after around half an hour, the group makes it to land. And when they made it to land, the group began to walk through a forest. And after around half an hour of walking, Kakashi shouts for everyone to duck. And hearing this, everyone did. And the second they did, a sword flew down from the trees above and it landed right in front of the group. Then when they looked to see where the sword came from, they see Zabuza in a tree. And seeing and recognizing Zabuza, Kakashi uncovers his Sharingan, which makes Zabuza recognize him. Then Zabuza began to surround the area in a thick mist. And when he was done, the two started to fight. And while they were fighting, the rest of Team 7 was surrounding the bridge builder, making sure he was safe. And eventually, Kakashi gets trapped in a sphere of water, and he's slowly drowning. And while Kakashi was drowning, a water clone of Zabuza was walking towards a group of Genin and Tazuna. And seeing this, Naruto made a dozen shadow clones, which immediately ran at the water clone. But with one slash with his sword, the water clone was able to destroy multiple clones. And seeing that a dozen clones wouldn't work, Naruto made 50 more shadow clones, and they ran to Zabuza water clone again. And while the clone was distracted, Naruto gave Sasuke a Fuma Shuriken, and when Sasuke got it, he threw it at the real Zabuza, who was able to catch the Shuriken at the last second, and he was able to dodge the secret second one that was under the first one, by jumping over it at the last second. But right after it passed him, the Shuriken got covered in smoke, and when it did, it revealed that the Shuriken was actually Naruto in disguise. Then Naruto shot out a flaming boulder aimed at Zabuza's back, and seeing the flaming boulder fly towards him, Zabuza let go of the water prison, and he jumped away. And he did this because if he didn't move, he would have been hit head on with the attack, and that would have done a lot of damage to him. So now Kakashi is free. And when Kakashi was able to get his breath back, he told Naruto to go back to the bridge builder while he fought. And hearing this, Naruto nodded and walked back to the group. And because he was fighting again, Zabuza undid the water clone, so the two of them went back to fighting, and eventually Kakashi was able to get the upper hand, and he was about to deliver the final blow to Zabuza, but before he was able to land the attack, a needle came down from the tree above, and it hit Zabuza in the neck. And the second it hit, Zabuza fell to the ground. And seeing this, Kakashi went over to Zabuza and he checked his pulse. But when he checked, he couldn't feel anything, meaning that Zabuza was dead. Then Kakashi looked to see where the needle came from, and when he does, he sees a Mashinobi, who tells the group that he was assigned to kill Zabuza. And after a bit of talking, the Mashinobi takes Zabuza's body and leaves. And a couple minutes later, Kakashi gets knocked out from overusing the Sharingan. And seeing this, Naruto makes multiple Shadow clones, and they all carry him to Tazuna's house to rest. And this is where I'm going to the what if. I hope you enjoyed this new series moving forward, and I hope to see you next time on Something Z. Also, happy Halloween, if I get the video on time.